Hey guys, Al here. Welcome to the channel. A special welcome if it is your first time here at Dark Side Movie Reviews. As always, the goal is to wow you, right? To the point where you leave this video and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I've experienced something on this channel. So hopefully you guys, you love the video. We are talking Into the Badlands Season 3, Episode 6 today. But before we get into that, and man, it was, like I said, it was a rough episode. So if you saw it, I'm wondering what you guys thought about it. I do want to give a couple of shouts out. First of all, thank you. And I'm not even going to name any names. Because I'm going to forget somebody, and I don't want folks to be mad. And everybody honestly deserves to get mentioned. And honestly, we don't have time to mention everybody. But thank you so much for everybody. And I do mean everybody who has subscribed to this channel to finally push us over the 1,000 subscribers mark. We work really hard to give you good content on this channel, so thank you for everybody who helped us get there. There's so many channels that do this out there, and as I've said before, I know that. So the fact that we've had 1,000 people, 1,002 at this point, supporting the channel is just so appreciated. Thank you so much for that. Also want to give a shout out to Sherman Augustus, who plays Moon on the show. Thank you, Sherman, because your interaction with us on Twitter is so appreciated. I don't know if the others have said this, but I appreciate the fact that you actually answer tweets, you retweet stuff, and when I saw that, I was like kind of starstruck, because to have this amount of interaction with a key player on the show is just amazing. And I appreciate the fact that you take your time to acknowledge fans and just interact with us. Thank you so much for that, man. And I just want to recognize you as a fan of the show. That said, you guys, before we get into it, make sure that you stick around to the end of this video, because I do have the Into the Badlands question of the day, and I want to see if you guys can answer that or not. See how much you know about the show. So I'm going to try and make this short. All right. But this episode was hard for me. It was rough for me, man. I'm just going to jump right into the reason why it was rough, and that is what happened to Castor at the end of the show. I was just like, I was heartbroken, man, because one of the things I loved about Castor is Castor reminds me of, I think, a lot of people, probably like you and I. Most of us just want to belong, right? Isn't it like the core need of most people to be loved, to have a sense of belonging, to have a sense of family, and to have a sense, in some sense, of unconditional love? And you just felt like Castor really wanted all of that from Pilgrim. And to see what happens to him at the end of this episode is really just heartbreaking, because even at that point, at the end of the episode, when essentially Pilgrim kills him, you can see Castor's need for acceptance from him. And to have something like that happen to him from Pilgrim is just heartbreaking. I even said that I might do just kind of like a tribute video to Castor, because I was really, really sad to see him go that way, because I just really enjoyed his character so much, because I guess he resonated with me, probably like a lot of you as well. Just that feeling of wanting to be accepted, that feeling of wanting to be loved. I just feel like it's just such a universal thing. This is a counselor inside of me. That's what I am by profession, talking now. So that really hurt me. But there's some other interesting things that happen in the show. Of course, you guys know the opening scene. We're in the marketplace, and we come across Bajie's wife, which I was looking forward to that when they talked about that from episode 5, because I just wanted to see what she would be like. I wanted to see if she would be very similar to him, and as it turns out, she is, which is funny, right? Because Bajie's an interesting character, because you have this side of Bajie that's kind of like this scoundrel side, right? And then you have this other side that you might even call, I guess, like a spiritual side, and the two of them are interesting, because you don't feel like both of those attributes would be part of the same character, but they do seem to coexist in Bajie, which makes him a unique character. It's probably one of the reasons he's my favorite character on the show, because he just has this uniqueness about him that comes from kind of those two areas of life with him. So it was interesting to meet his wife. But one of the things we do learn when we meet her is that his dedication to this whole idea of Azura, or the aspect of Azura, or carrying out the mission of Azura in terms of his belief that Azura is going to bring this big change to the Badlands, is something that's really prominent in him. And as much as he talks about not really believing it, you can see that he does believe it. There is something inside of him that wants it to be true. So when we meet her, we find a little bit more about him, and we still see that that's an aspect of him that's kind of run all through the journey that he's gone through the Badlands. It was kind of interesting to meet her. I was super happy to see the River King again. I told you guys that before. He's an interesting character that I wanted to see more of, so I'm glad they brought him back into the narrative. So we'll see how they use him in upcoming shows, but I do like that character, and hopefully they make him more of a pivotal part in the storyline, because I want to see more of him. So that was cool. I told you guys, see? So I was kind of wrong, right? Because I did say last episode that Pilgrim was going to flip MK, and it appears that he did. And I thought that the Widow was going to actually flip Castor, but she doesn't. And that's another thing. He stays loyal to Pilgrim. And for Pilgrim to do what he did, man, I mean, the dude, he gets captured, doesn't give Pilgrim up in any kind of way, stays loyal to Pilgrim. And for Pilgrim to do what he did is just, it was just really hard to see. But anyway, she does capture him. They make a trade. The Widow's like, listen, I'm going to give you Castor back. You give us the refugees back, and then it's a done deal. So they go ahead and make that trade. But at this point is when I think that really Pilgrim sees the turning point, or has a turning point with Castor. I think that at this point, when he sees the shape that Castor is in during the exchange, I think that he understands what Cressida said is true. That Castor, unfortunately, in terms of him being kind of effective, or in terms of him being able to use his dark abilities to help further the cause of Azura, is not an asset anymore. And I think Pilgrim recognizes that. And I think that's why he does what he does at the end of the show. Not that it makes it any easier, because I thought it was just horrible. I mean, it was really heartbreaking for me to see that. But I think he realizes that at this point. And then he kind of does what he has to do, which is interesting because it tells you something about him as a character. It tells you that even though he does seem to have some sensibility about him, and even some compassion to an extent, when it comes to the cause of Azura, he's going to do what he has to do. And I think that Castor's probably the biggest example that we've seen of that. So that was really heartbreaking to see. It was also interesting to watch Pilgrim as he interacted with the folks that he took from the refugee camp. And this guy is so manipulating. And we see kind of cases like this happening today, where basically he takes them, right? They're rounded up like criminals, or rounded up like slaves. And then he gives this big speech and tells them, listen, you guys, this really is all about changing your situation in the Badlands, about changing your position, about making you better, about having you rise to a better plane. That's what this is all about. So he gets in their minds, and then after that big speech, and he tells them, listen, you guys may have been taken, but none of you guys are prisoners. You can leave if you want to leave. Nobody's leaving after that speech. Everybody knows, especially them, they know the state of the Badlands is awful. So if you get a guy coming that's preaching a message like this, and he can actually get your mind, where are you going? You're not going anywhere. You're going to be a part of his vision. So it's interesting how he kind of manipulates them. So we see a portion of that in the Badlands as well. And this is a theme you see in the Badlands kind of all the way through season 1 as well. Different people have these different scenarios about how they think life can be better, or how they think that they can provide for a group of people. And people buy into that narrative. And this is the same thing that's happening with Pilgrim, but he's bringing a totally new message to the Badlands, something that's different. I mean, you do have the Widow that is kind of sending this message that, listen, I want the Badlands to be free of all of this type of servitude. And then Pilgrim's bringing actually even a broader message saying that, listen, you're not only going to be free of the servitude, you're going to transcend all of this. I mean, your very being will be better. So it was interesting to see kind of how now that message is being woven into the show, and we'll see how well that takes. Also, it was interesting to see how Cressida is slowly working on Minerva. So you guys notice that part at the end when they make the exchange, and Cressida kind of looks at her and she's like, wait, I noticed something about you. You used to have the gift as well. And then she asks her that key question, right? Do you want it back? Now, Minerva acts like this is nothing to her. I mean, she asks her how she knows, but she's just kind of like shakes it off like, you know what, whatever. We made a trade, I'm out. But you know she's thinking about that. She has to be thinking about that. All the effort she went to recruit, all the effort she went to recruit MK. I mean, what would it be like if she had that gift herself? The things that she could do in fulfilling the mission that she has for the Badlands. And I think that Cressida realizes this, and she is going to continue to work on the Widow. And I would not be surprised if the Widow actually took that bait. If she thought that it was advantageous to help her with their cause, I would not be surprised if she took that bait. And she allowed Cressida to do whatever she could do to actually reverse what happened to her and for her to get her dark gift back. And if she got the dark gift, she would be... She's already like number 2, number 3 fighter in the Badlands, in my opinion. She would just be an absolute monster if she got that gift back. So that was interesting to see in the show too. And we'll see how that plays out in upcoming episodes as well. But I'm watching the relationship between Cressida and the Widow really closely because it's a little bit of game of cat and mouse, I do believe, going on with those two. I'm also watching Moon. Now, Moon, we know right now, is still working for the Widow, but I think Moon has his own alternate plans, even now that he's done with kind of the whole idea of going after Sunny. I really think Moon, I said this before in other videos, I think Moon is going to actually devise a plan to actually get Lydia and roll out. That's what I think. Now, I can be wrong about that. We'll see. I've had some predictions before that I've been wrong about, but we'll see. It's also interesting now that Odessa and Tilda on the outs as well. You guys know that Odessa was like, listen, I'm out. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. You go ahead and do what you got to do. I'm done with the fighting. I'm done with it all. And Tilda is, out of everybody, the one that really seems to have a heart for the refugees to me. I don't even think Lydia so much. You know what? I'm a little leery of Lydia, because I think she talks a good game, but I think from her interaction with Quinn a couple of episodes ago or a couple of seasons ago, I still think that she has a bent or a leaning towards a desire for power. And I think that if she gets that, I do think that she will forget those that she was interested in helping, but I don't think Tilda is that way. I think Tilda really has a heart for the refugees. And I think that it's to the point where if Odessa wants to roll, she's like, I'm sorry, listen, you can go, but I got to help the refugees. So, of course, you know, she makes this whole deal with the Widow to pair up with her to take down Baron Child to help the refugees. So I'm watching Tilda as well. I still think she's a little kind of young and dumb, so to speak, a little bit naive. No disrespect to my younger folks out there. Got a little age on me, though. But I'm watching her because I like her motivations. I still feel like she has a heart to serve, and there are some things that she just won't do. So I kind of like that aspect of her. Hopefully that doesn't change with her. So a lot of stuff went on in this episode. It was a pretty interesting episode. It wasn't action-packed, but as I've said before, listen, you guys, one of the things that's so great about this show is the value of the storytelling. Now, for me, I've said this before, the martial arts in the show is incredible, but it's like the icing on the cake. There's so many good elements about this show that you just get pulled into it from the story, from the interesting characters, from the world build, which is absolutely amazing, from the costume design. All of it just pulls you in. So when you get the martial arts aspect of it on top of all of that goodness, it just makes the show so incredible. So we didn't get a lot of action in the show. I'm cool with that. I'm okay with that because I thought the story in the show was really good and it advanced the narrative as a whole of season 3. So I just enjoyed all of that. But this was a really rough episode for me to just watch, man. I mean, to see Castor like go out like that, I'm just like, man, woo. It was hard. It was really, really rough to watch. So guys, what did you think about this episode, Black Wind Howls? Can you believe we have 16 episodes in season 3? I'm so happy now this show is really starting to get more accolades. Props to you, to everybody who's given us this show. As I said, it's the best show on AMC. One of the goals of this channel is to make this a household name. Like when you make copies, you think Xerox. Like when you do a Google search or internet search, you think Google. Yeah, we're trying to get the show here. That's where we want it. It's such a good show. So a major goal on this channel is to make sure that we give it as much exposure as we can because I love this show. All right, guys, with that said, let's get into the Badlands question of the day. So honestly, you guys, this is not necessarily a question, but I'm curious to know well, I guess it is a question, really. I'm curious to know what your thoughts are. What do you think is going to end up happening with Ren? Will we see Ren again? Maybe we will, maybe we won't. What do you think is going to end up happening with her? Now, by the way, if you don't remember who Ren is, she's the one who Bajie recommended that the nurse cut her leg off. So I saw an image of her not too long ago that someone said, do you know who that is? And I was like, I couldn't figure it out. Then they were like, that's Ren. I was like, wow. So I wonder what's going to happen to her in upcoming episodes, how we'll see her again, if we'll see her again. What do you guys think? Guys, thank you so much as always. Again, a huge thank you to everybody who subscribed to the channel. Listen, if you're a fan of this show, if you love Into the Badlands, Share this video. Make sure that you subscribe. Join the community. So much more to come around this show. Thank you again so much. And with that, I will see you on the next video. Peace.